and to touch on a couple of topics connecting the previous post and audio and this one, what they call group sitting, but which is a chant that Goenka does at the end of most sittings, where he likes to joke about the fact that at the end of the Aditan, as we call it, strong determination sitting, after 1 hour, he starts to chant that, and that's when people feel such a big relief after feeling that they have been suffering strongly, painfully for almost an hour. Then the first words of this chanting announce the end of that session, and suddenly the big relief from the pain. But in the previous audio, I was touching on our true nature as far as duality, and mainly also for the part of coming and going, arising and passing away, arising and passing away. So that is the first line, and the first words are the famous last words of the Buddha, and also part of this chanting addresses the moment when the Buddha reached that enlightenment and what he declared after the stage of figuring out exactly our true nature, which is impermanent, what we call anicca. So it is always like that. As I meant, in the universe, everything is impermanent, everything is temporary, everything is constantly changing at different scale of space and time, which is why, again, for humans, they either will consider some long or short. Again, humans like to take themselves as the universal reference, unfortunately, which is part of the ignorance, and they don't have the open-mindedness to look at things objectively for what they are, or to adapt their mind and they look at things into the thing's nature, but they always try to take in reference to themselves and their own scales, which is the problem and what limits the discoveries and the understanding. So everything anyway is impermanent. So that's why there's no point to be attached as a basic typical Buddhist value or notion. To liberate yourself from suffering, it means that you should cut any attachment to anything, which means everything, every phenomena, no matter what, objects, inanimate object, organic object, vegetables or animals and humans. Everything, of course, is never going to last forever. And some will be very short, as the typical thing with pets, and people say, oh, it's hard to have a pet, to have a dog, because usually you live longer than them, even if you have them from birth. Usually they will die quite earlier than you. And then other things that will totally outlast you, right? But again, the whole typical made-up human way to say, oh, but that's my legacy, and this object will be transmitted to my next generation, and my next generation. Again, such made-up delusional attachment to things and concepts to try to leave a legacy or something. But anyway, everything is impermanent. Everything is coming and going, arising and passing away. Everything is in waves, everything is energy. All nature The nature of everything is energy waves, coming and going, coming and going. And then, as such, as I mentioned before, of course, unfortunately, what shows that most humans are so ignorant is that they have a hardest time with the most basic notion of life, existence, and what it's about, as the thing that's common to every being like this, is that if you have come, you will go. And that is that we are all born to die. But then death becomes such a big deal for most people. So talking about death, in one way, it's such a big deal for most people, and for me it feels like a very basic topic to talk about, like simple. There's not much to say about it because it's just the way it is, the nature of things. And we are all born to die. Anything comes and rise or arise to disappear again, to be gone again. And that's just the basic reality of anything, of life, of existence, of anything, any phenomena. So there is no point to be attached at all. And some people will say, well, that's why we should enjoy what we can while life exists, and especially as we know that it can be cut short for many people. Again, the whole attachment, especially when it involves your own, supposedly your own relatives, your kids or whatever, that died sooner than planned, supposedly. But again, it's all karma too, which is the other notion, right? So here it is, again, countless births in the cycle of existence, which we call samsara. Karma, everything is karma, and you only exist because of your karma. And the other notion of course, reincarnation, which is typical Buddhist, Hinduist also, but so many people will say, well, you like to believe in reincarnation. Again, I mentioned before about the notion of belief, which is not something I go by, of course. The Buddhists talk about reincarnation originally thanks to people who can experience the before and after. Again, you can reach that level through deep concentration. You can experience previous life. Many people accept this notion of, wow, and that's cool, you can actually experience your past lives, and now they have this thing of past life regression, or people who help you with that, whatever. And then in the same way you could see the future. But again, you can always affect your karma at any moment, or anything you do at any moment affect your karma. As much as people say, well, that's karma, they mix it up with destiny, like, well, that's karma, there's nothing I can do about it. Well, yeah, the previous karma, until the last moment, like the last hour and 10 minutes or few seconds, whatever you did or thought, is influencing this present moment. So yes, what's happening right now depends on your previous karma from billions of lives before and existences to the last moments. But still, what you do right now, which also can decide what you will do after, but you can still make the choice, conscious choice, of your action, decision and thoughts and intentions, so that it will affect the future karma. And that's why it's your big responsibility. And actually, that's why you are fully responsible for whatever happens in your life. So again, the very immature mindset of the victim roles, complacent victim role, like people enjoy that so much because, of course, the ego discharges itself for the responsibility of what happens to it, and for being so self-centered. Then it makes things easier and satisfies to the narcissism, but ultimately the whole karma that happens to you is your responsibility for what you did before. And again, whatever happens to you or whatever happens to some other beings is linked to that. And that's also how it works with a rebirth. So deep level of concentration know that and can foresee the next existence. So your karma during the life, and at the end of your life, you will have some main traits of your karma, and those are the ones that will define your next life and your next psychological traits, main psychological traits that you will be born with. And again, the context you will be born in, where in the world, in which social context, and with what kind of parents, is still your responsibility because of what you did before. You know, some people, for a while, there was a bit of a new age thing that says, well, you actually had a contract, you knew where you would be reborn, you make a contract to be reborn in this context, on this context. It's not that, of course, most people make a conscious contract to be reborn in this or this context, because, as usual, from a weak mind, they would prefer to discharge themselves from responsibility, and everybody would sign up for being born in the best context, you know, very healthy and happy people and rich and whatever. So, but that's how it is. So basically, again, back to the notion before and what I mentioned earlier with this everything being an energy. Everything is energy and frequency. So that's what it is. And karma is that again. It's a frequency and energy. So that actually decides which energetic context you will be reborn in the next life, for every parameter, every criteria, from your own physical aspect to your own personality or main personality traits, to the place and the type of parents. And so, I mean, when some people after they like to blame their parents for what happened to them or for the way they were raised, well, there was a reason why you were born in that context, because of your previous lives and what you did before. But the point is that, first of all, it means that any existence, you didn't do enough to become enlightened to not be reborn again. So you still have some defilements that you have to work on. And ultimately, any existence is that. It's a challenge to go from ignorance to wisdom. So the new life, whichever context it's in, again, it's all about the lessons and to manage to grow from the context you are born in or raised in, or whatever happens to you, is to manage to grow towards wisdom instead of the classic victim self-pity role that the ego thrives in and likes to blame others or life for. So that is what karma, how karma works in general, and again what we call the cycle of existence and reincarnation. And so you are fully responsible for that. So the next part is addressing, like, again, the typical classic belief, exactly because that ego in general likes to discharge itself from any guilt or responsibility and create gods, whatever, make the gods responsible for whatever happens, and the notion of creator, right? That's where, unfortunately, in that way, I go quite against all my friends First Nation, and always the notion of creator, but that's why they have it all wrong, and that's one reason why they still have that so-called bad karma happening to them, why they have so much suffering, right? Why they have suffered so much. But as much as sometimes they have this arrogant attitude of, thinking that they can teach others spirituality, their own spiritual beliefs, and sure, many of them have connection to deeper things in life and energy, yet the notion of the creator is where they have it quite wrong. And as long as they're gonna believe strongly in that wrong thing, well, wrong things will happen to them. That's karma. So there is no creator in that sense also, and that's the discovery and the announcement in one way that the Buddha made once he got enlightened, when he says, "Oh, house builder, know your sin, and you shall not build a house again for me." So the house builder is your ignorant ego. It's you, fully responsible for coming into existence and rebirth and death and rebirth and death, until you get it, you become wise enough, get that deeper insight into your true nature. What is always referred to is like the rich pole is that ego, that self-centeredness, and the beams are the mind defilements, which we mainly in Buddhism sum up by moha, lobha, dosa, the general source, which is delusion, because you're ignorant, you are delusional, and you believe in this illusionary self and ego. And the two other ones are two words, but sometimes can be defined different ways. Lobha is greed or passion or lust, and dosa is aversion, hatred, or jealousy or envy or things like that. Yeah, lobha can be also cravings, any attachment for desires. And as long as you have this ego and those defilements of attachments, desires, or hatred, anger, then you are attached to that notion of me, self, I, and then your connection to the outer world and things around. And as long as you are attached to any material thing, like what you call the world around you, then you are craving to be part of it unconsciously. Of course, then you have still those mind defilements at the moment of death with some bigger ones, right? Big attachments. Then that's what asks for a new birth again into existence, into the material world, you can say. Unless, just like the Buddha in that moment, but also other people, of course, that it is known, you consciously make the proper effort and the steady work of meditating and practicing with, first of all, as everyday thing, always have the good intention. Try to really have this awareness of your mind at any moment with your intentions and thoughts, and try to live every day with good intentions for you, for everybody, for everyone, no harm, right? Like there is the basic quotes, right? Yeah, to become wise, to erase the impurities of the mind, the bad intention, the bad thinking, and to develop a pure mind of good intention and kindness and good things for everybody. So that's the basic everyday practice that one should have all the time, at any time. And then you can have those sessions of deeper practice, sitting down, meditating, concentrating, and then hopefully one day can experience enlightenment. And that's where you could say the same, that you will see the house builder, who is the creator, that it's you, and you are responsible in creating that life and existence, and whatever happens, whatever comes to you, people or things or events, whatever. I mean, there is both. There is individual and collective karma too, right? Again, that's why, well, what's happening in the world now is the collective karma of the mankind in the world, because of what I explained before, because still the greatest majority of humans are ignorant and still make a point to remain ignorant with very self-centered, selfish intention, which are completely careless about the rest, about other beings and the rest of the planet and the environment and the world. People still want to enjoy their own self-centered pleasures. They keep addicted to their own satisfaction. So, one way or the other, so that creates the global general karma, or bad karma, you can say, or getting worse and worse and worse, because actually, as we see, humans are in general destroying the world that they live in, that sustains them. So, vicious cycle. And that's why, on the other hand, like the Buddha said, make an iron of yourself. Try to liberate yourself first, and when you will know how to liberate yourself from all the attachment to that and the conditioning, then you will know how to help others. And that's exactly the next lines too. The mind has become freed from conditioning with the end of craving. So that's what, of course, enlightenment is about, as I mentioned before. Well, I guess I could do another one on enlightenment, but again, it's a simple thing also, because it's beyond the mind and matter, as we say, so it's beyond any concept in general, and there's not much to say for people to really grasp what it is, except that there are a few words that can define it properly: the ultimate void, and dying before dying, beyond the mind and matter, the unconditioned. So as I said in the previous audio, it is when you have flattened the energy waves. So when you reach enlightenment, you are free from any conditioning anymore. There is no more those energy waves and burning inside, and you have totally eradicated those mind defilements of moha, loba, dosa. Well, there are different stages. I'm talking actually about the ultimate stage of enlightenment. Then there's no more moha, loba, dosa. Before that, you still have a bit, but you have made such a milestone. I mean, you have stepped into another world, another dimension, that there's no coming back anyway. You have reached that awareness that cannot be undone. Exactly like you're supposed to have seen that house builder. But enlightenment is that. And of course, you become very, very aware that everything is impermanent, including yourself. There's no point to be attached. So there's no permanent self. You like to call yourself by your name your whole life, but still, that nature also keeps changing all the time because of karma. Karma is constantly evolving, right? Depending on strong previous things, but also smaller things, and until the last moment. That's why, yeah, as I said before, but yeah, you should be really wary of your mind. Keep your mind in check all the time to have only good intentions and good thoughts. And when you manage to detach more and more like that, ultimately you detach more and more mentally, right, from the mind. Then you detach emotionally from things. That's what will take away most of the suffering in your life, as most of the suffering happens in the head, actually. Again, as I mentioned before, different from the pain, but the pain becomes the tool. And when you sit that long time without moving, and you experience very deep discomfort, you actually can use that tool to figure out your true nature and also see that this is impermanent. And it's just only about the level of concentration. You think that pain is right there, permanent, like for some time, but actually if you manage to reach deeper level of concentration, you will experience exactly that this is just a signal of energy waves sent through the nerves to the brain that come and go, but of course billions of times per second. But if you can reach that level of concentration, then you will manage to dissociate that and separate from that. It's not a constant pain actually, but it seems constant because those rising and passing away waves, signals along the nervous system happen billions of times per second, and you don't have the level of awareness and concentration to be really aware at that scale of things. But you can reach that, and once you reach that level of concentration and experience and see basically for yourself a hypasico, those billions of wavelets, energy waves sending a signal along the nerve system to the mind, then you manage to detach from that, and then suddenly the pain disappears. And that's how it is exactly. When one understands the arising and passing away of the aggregates, those aggregates which we call the khandhas, as I also have done a video or audio on khandhas, that's exactly that reaction chain of physical contact, information, sensation, perception, reaction. But when you become aware at that scale of the billions of billions per second, then it dissociates physically. Then you become free from the pain. And of course, you can experience bliss and tranquility. And you can go deep enough so that, as I meant, this is basically what we call tranquility is the fourth jhana, which is the fourth level of absorption and concentration, which means still in the rupa world, which is the material world, physical world. Then after that you can go in the fifth jhana for the next four, which we call the higher jhanas, or the arupa, which is the formless, non-physical, means only in the mind, and then you start to link into the universe. And those four, I won't go in details about that right here, but they are called expanded space, expanded consciousness, nothingness, and neither perception nor non-perception. Number 8. So that exactly that, again, is basic physics and normal. Once you have reached that level of concentration, can dissociate from the physical attachment and the sensations, then you detach from the body truly, and there's only the mind. So suddenly the mind is free from that attachment to the body, then it is free to expand. Before you kept it in that cage of that body that you believe is you, my body, my ego that feels so much about myself and my sensations and attachment to your sensation, whether they are good or bad, pleasure or pain. Then once the mind is detached from the body, then it can expand. So first it can expand in space, and that's truly what you would experience suddenly, an expansion, not limited by the physical boundaries of that body. And then after that, you can reach a stage where the consciousness itself expands, and then you start to understand a bit of the structure of the universe and what makes the universe. And then after that, you start to go in this most subtlest ways of phenomena, which is nothingness and neither perception nor non-perception. That's where the notion of perception awareness becomes so refined to such a tiny, almost non-vibrating scale. That's the point. That's where you have almost flattened your frequency. The frequency becomes so strong and stable as very low. People like to talk about high frequency, high vibration, cool, whatever, but that's like agitation. High frequency, high vibration means agitated. And that's why they talk about, the black holes and those places in the universe where the frequency is so low, so long. Exactly, makes something very strong. Then you can actually experience things at that stage. So for example, when you come back from that stage into your everyday life, right there you suddenly see or experience your everyday life in slow motion in one way. Suddenly the scale of awareness, time and space has shifted, and you are aware of so many more things in the one moment, in the 1 second, than you were before. And at the same time, everything seems to appear in slow motion, exactly because of that, because you're... And they show that sometime in some martial arts movie, some kind of kung fu movie in China, or actually in The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Once he has learned the proper way with the martial arts, both the physical training, but then the mental, right? Training and awareness to that point. And when they fight at that level, when they practice at the time, of course, the people, the samurais, or people who practice the martial arts at a very high level like that, they have both awareness, and then you don't look with your eyes anymore, you don't listen with your ears, but you have expanded consciousness like that, expanded awareness of your surroundings, and then you're very aware of what's happening around you without using your basic senses. That's some truth there. That's why they put it in typical Asian martial arts movies, because of course for them it has been known and practiced for a very long time, through the schools of martial arts, of course, from the famous Bodhidharma, who is that Buddhist monk who crossed the Himalayas by foot from India to China to start the Shaolin Temple, spent 9 years in a cave meditating. So that's how it comes from again. Of course, he has reached the highest level, and he could teach other people after those practices, but from the martial art angle, which is where I come from too, which is why I have both sides, and martial arts helped me a lot already as a young teenager. I experienced already a lot through that, actually, without practicing so much meditation myself, but already from the dedicated practice of martial arts properly, there was already a lot coming this way, besides of course a strong body and strong mind in the practice, dedicated mind, which is a big deal to reach any higher level in meditation and in peacefulness and harmony within oneself, which are words that are known also in martial arts, the proper martial arts, not the fighting sports. Those are values that are really honored. But then, of course, it also can work through just meditation, but you need to have that strong mind, developing that strong mind, steadfast practice, regularity, like anything else. Regularity pays off. Regular practice pays off at the end. Only that, it doesn't matter. It's the basic rule. It's not more difficult in that field than any other field. You want to become a professional in a field, you have to train and practice those skills regularly to improve and become a professional, proficient at it. In sports, it's the same. Any sport, you want to become really, really good at that sport, you have to train and practice regularly. So it's always the same. So I was touching a little bit on enlightenment, but enlightenment again, it's still another thing. It's still the void. But so at the end, like what they call a deathless stage, experienced by the wise. That's what they mean by deathless. So again, going back to what I meant to touch on about earlier is death also. So karma. You get caught up in the cycle of existence, birth, death, rebirth, so-called, but it's just a continuum, just different forms, different stages, but it's cycles and cycles after cycles, like anything else. So that's why death is not a big deal itself, because it's going to come anyway at some point. The point is how much you want to use wisely your time until it comes, and also it can come sooner than expected, right? So that's why again you should be wary of your mindset at any time, and ideally focus on at least practicing a good mindset all the time, and get rid of the defilement of the mind, so that when death comes anytime, you don't feel like any regrets, you don't have too strong bad karma for the next life, to have a better next existence. So it's just a transition. And also what many people say, of course, that's why this life is only a preparation for death. So that's how it should be seen at, because we all go towards that transition time anyway. And that's why people say you should hopefully one day experience death before dying. Then you would see what it's about, what's beyond it. And it's a continuum of energy anyway, for most. Then it wouldn't be such a scary or weird thing. And it's just mostly the physical form that suddenly stops for that time, but your karmic energy with the mind gets reincarnated in the next physical existence, whichever form it is, lower, higher. Again, there's a thing about different realms of existence in Buddhism, but don't need to touch on that right now. So I was going to say almost a little experience of that is, as a lower stage, is if you can also develop already awareness and concentration to a certain point. Usually, again, when people fall asleep, you are actually never aware of the moment you fall asleep, right? You can have a little awareness when you get really tired, you kind of doze off a little bit, and you say, oh, I was dozing off, and most of the time people deny, no, I was still awake, I was still aware. No, The other people were like, no, I saw your head just come down, or when you have the twitch, right? And again, those twitches, they're like, oh yeah, that means I'm aware that I'm falling asleep. But it's not exactly that. But then there is the real moment when you fall asleep, and usually you cannot be aware of that most of the time. But then you can practice, and one day, first of all, you will have so much awareness all the time that you will need already less sleep, because your mind is at rest, is very focused, very concentrated most of the time. And then you can actually experience that transition moment, but with full awareness, when suddenly everything relaxes. And that's another thing again, that notion of proper relaxation. People will go to massage, then there is the yoga teaching, and then Shavasana, relax yourself. But people still don't know what is to really relax, both the mind and the body. Well, mostly because of the mind not being relaxed, never relaxed, then the body cannot relax properly too. And that's where it touches again another point which I made before, and I will try to make it short on this one, but why at the end you don't need that much sleep as whatever so-called scientist experts want to convince you. And also because they don't even know the difference between body rest, physical rest for the body, which is also connected to how much you can relax your body and let it rest, and then the other part, which is the relaxed, peaceful mind, not agitated, not stressed. But it's connected like that. So if you have as most humans, an agitated mind, a never really relaxed mind, that's what makes you need a longer sleep time, what they call the regular 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever, only because you're not able to have a profound, proper, restful sleep time straight in one stretch. If you can do that, 3 hours is enough, which is a classic that is known also in that world in Buddhism. If you actually know how to have that level of awareness and peaceful mind anytime, and especially when you decide, okay, now I'm going to sleep, because then that's the point, you choose, and you can choose, and you put yourself to sleep consciously with awareness. It becomes an alert sleep, an aware sleep time. Then you don't need many hours, because at once it will be fully relaxed, like not much thinking, no dreaming. Also, you can reach the point when you're at a higher level, there's no more dream anymore, which confirms that you have a peaceful and quiet life. But then still, the body being the body, aliveness and energy and all of that, the body needs to rest. But that's two different things. So resting the body is really just resting the body. You can lay down and rest your body. But again, if you know how to do that properly, that's why you don't need so much sleep either, because you know how to properly relax your body. And then if you at the same time know how to properly relax your mind, because you have enough awareness, concentration, and peacefulness, as you have a peaceful life, you have managed to create a peaceful life around you through all that, then you can totally relax everything. And then, like the proper relaxation, you will feel the difference, of course. Like it's like day and night with whatever. Even if you are used to yoga and you go in Shavasana so many times, this is still another world. You will see the whole difference. And then you can experience that as a classic when you fall asleep. Your body, as other people can witness, as a sudden relaxation. While you can experience that with awareness. And also the mind going into somewhat the unconsciousness for most people at the time. That's when the dream world takes over in one way, which is again more related to the real world, actually the reality of your existences and karma. that's, again, I won't go in details on that, but what the dream world is about, and people think about dreams. Dreams are telling you exactly about your deeper consciousness or your subconsciousness of what truly your life is about, and existence and your karma through all the lives, everything. That's why sometimes you think it's weird or it's kind of strange, but your dreams tell you actually about the real you and your true nature and your true karma, accumulated karma, and whatever is happening now in your real life compared to your daily life. Of course, sometimes some events of your daily life affect your dream that night especially, but that's how it works. But again, and that's why if you are fully aware, already very advanced with awareness and a very relaxed mind and higher level of concentration, awareness and equanimity, then you will reach a point where you don't dream anymore. And because also you have an aware, alert sleep and not like a typical unconscious sleep. Again, the notion of unconsciousness is a bit different. It's never unconscious, right? The mind is never unconscious. That's why it keeps reacting constantly with its million of operation and reaction to whatever physiological phenomena is happening anytime. That's why you don't die when you sleep, even though you're kind of unconscious, like as far as mental awareness, but your mind is always there with hormones flowing everywhere to keep you, and with your biochemical reaction happening to keep you alive, so that you are still breathing and your heart keeps beating and you still wake up in the morning. Again, you see, you are never in charge of that. You think you know your body, but you are never in charge of your breath or your heart beating for most of humans. Again, they don't have that level of awareness. Anyway, that was touching a bit on a side thing too, linked to sleep. But so yeah, if you can one day reach the point where you are fully aware of the moment you fall asleep, which means at the time that it's kind of under control in one way, at least with awareness, then you have a little idea of what also death is about. And again, it's just a transition to another, not dimension in one way, and just transition to the next phase again. But death is just that. It's just transition time to the next existence. And of course, the point with Buddhism, and as this chant is about, is to use one life wisely to develop full wisdom and to reach enlightenment. So you don't have to go through the hassle of rebirth and suffering again, whichever the context is in the next existence.